While you were busy dunking on Bitcoin, Bitcoin is slowly changing the world. I believe this is one of the more important write ups we've had and videos we've had. And it just goes through what is often missed in the talking points, the 2 minute clips on the media, and people talking at the dinner table about Bitcoin. People talk a lot about the number go up technology, the NGU. And that's what people see all the time. That's what draws people in, and then they stay for the freedom. And you have to draw people in through that price. So the incentive structure of drawing people into the system. However, what's more important than that is what's actually going on with the system and what actually gives it. I get so many questions, people saying, what is Bitcoin? What is it? Like, what is mining? Like, what is actually happening? What is it? Is it just this Ponzi scheme? Is it just this thing, the number goes up and that's it? It's just people trying to sell to the next person in line and just shuffle gains off on another person. And it's anything but that. And once you dive down the rabbit hole, you understand what's going on. So, again, if you find yourself dunking on Bitcoin or doubting your investment, maybe you've made no investment, or maybe you've made some and you're doubting yourself, or you're having fun jumping on, dancing on the grave of other people. Remember that Bitcoin is stabilizing grids, and it's the greatest form of a true ESG movement. This fake environmental, social governance garbage from the World Economic Forum on down the United Nations, and these global governance groups, which we have shown have been anything but trustworthy. And just knowing where they're coming from, the limits of growth, Club of Rome, where they invented these concepts to take control and power from people. This is all written about. This is not debatable. This is in their own words, using pollution or climate change to their advantage to use it as a mechanism to create it, and use it as a mechanism to create control. This global problem. They needed a global problem, as they said, and this Bitcoin is what actually changes and rips apart the power and control that they have and exposes the cockroaches everywhere. Light disinfects all. And this is more powerful than anyone could have ever imagined, than one forum, one mastermind could have ever come up with. In Texas Bitcoiners, this is examples of all the different things that are going on right now in the news and what Bitcoin is doing. Texas Bitcoin miners turning off power to conserve the grid for the high temperatures and the things that are going on. So you can go in and read these articles. You can go read these, places all across the internet of people doing things. I try to take everything that was not on a Bitcoin related site. So it wasn't, some Bitcoin or, crypto site talking about Bitcoin. These are all New York Times, BBC, NBC, Yahoo, stuff like that. So it can give you this partial, hopefully mostly partial or impartial approach to it. So Bitcoin is capturing stranded energy. Bitcoin City being powered by volcanoes. So giving wealth to areas that really could never have exported anything before, have a very hard time getting wealth. So it's allowing people to transfer energy across time and space almost for free, almost and instantaneously, and then capture wealth that they otherwise never would have had. This is, I think, some of the most powerful stuff, and those are just incredibly powerful. But Bitcoin is capturing credit card rewards for the consumer, B2C, and then also from B2B. And letting merchants keep their transaction fees, now cutting out the middleman banks. And if you haven't seen this, it's a couple-minute video of Jack Mallers. You can click this and check this out. It's a couple-minute video of him checking out 3 different ways using the Bitcoin network, using dollars, using Bitcoin, using all different things. His app has created the ability, final settlement on the Bitcoin network. Just like you're handing someone gold and silver, it's a debt-based system. It's not credit, settling in 30, 60, 90 days. Instant settlement with a merchant. They get the fees. You guys get to pay less for it, which are already seeing merchants everywhere, or not everywhere, I should say, but it's coming out where merchants are saying, hey, if you pay in Bitcoin, we'll charge you less because they get to keep more money. And again, you could be reward points, it could be pesos, it could be dollars, it could be Bitcoin. It just settles on the Bitcoin network. It uses the rails of the Bitcoin network, so it doesn't have to be Bitcoin. And that's where eventually we'll get to, where people are just transacting their monetary energy and don't even know they're using Bitcoin. Bitcoin is using pollution from the legacy system to mine more Bitcoin and stabilize the system. And we have things like, Marathon is oil companies, I believe Chevron. I had to check to see which companies. I forgot to pull this one, but what companies are using stranded energy that's, pollution that's coming out from their rigs that are mining in the legacy system, and they're using that energy to create wealth and mine Bitcoin. Truly mind blowing. You may not have read Jason Lowry from Space Force, an MIT graduate student right now, is writing his thesis on how it changes wars and incentivizes peace. And here you can see This is so incredibly important. Number one, every one of these assets carries a monetary premium that we defend with human lives. So real estate, gold, your commodities, oil, equities, the paper markets, the bond markets. And the chain of custody for these assets is written in blood. That's the protection mechanism, defended and protected by the military and rule of law. Now, you take all that, when that gets demonetized and gets sucked into Bitcoin over the years, Bitcoin is protected and defended by electricity and code. So number two here, by transposing their monetary premiums into cyberspace using a digital synthetic commodity called Satoshis, which is the divisible unit of Bitcoin. There's 100 million Satoshis in one Bitcoin. We replace the cost of human life with the cost of an electricity bill for defending our wealth. Not having to waste human life to defend monetized wealth is worth every watt. So don't let anyone tell you anything about electricity use. Again, the World Economic Forum completely wrong. 5 years ago, they said Bitcoin would use every ounce of energy we have in the world. It's still now 2 years past 2020. They're completely wrong. Uses 0.28% of all the world's energy to defend wealth instead of human blood. You may not have known that's still up 5 to 6 at 20,000, still up 5 to 6x from the March 2020 lows. What else can say that? What other asset can say that? Maybe oil because it went negative. That's maybe the only asset you could say that has actually done that. So again, people are saying, "Oh, the price went down," but it is up incredibly high compared to what the low was. Unlike most assets, which might only be up 10% or 20%. A lot of them are negative now. You may be thinking in high time preference. You only live once, short-term gratification versus a low time preference. Bitcoiners choose to be a low time preference, thinking for the long term, thinking for their kids and their grandkids and posterity. You may not have seen the Bitcoin charts destroying all assets from the past decade via Raoul Pal and his exponential age report. Just an incredible report. I couldn't share the 30-page report here, obviously, but here's a chart here that can show you a little bit of that. You may not have seen this chart of the dollar bottoming out versus Bitcoin over the last decade. Look at this chart. This is just mind-blowing. This chart is the dollar denominated in Bitcoin, and it just goes through the floor. You can see in the first couple of years as Bitcoin was 1 cent and 10 cents and a dollar, that's when it had some value against Bitcoin, and then just flatlines. Looks like the Venezuelan economy. So that's the dollar. If you own the dollar, that's what your purchasing power looks like if you didn't own Bitcoin over the last 10 years. And that's really a little bit of all. There's only a few, there's only a number of people in the world that stand to benefit that much. But this is just going to continue happening because the printer has to keep running. Jay Powell just got caught, couldn't answer the question. Someone asked him in this week, June of 2022, hey, why can't we just stop spending? He couldn't answer it because it's a debt-based system. We're in a fiat system backed by nothing. It's debt-based. We have to print. We have to get into more and more debt. That's why hedging, getting into good debts, being able to manage your debts, debtors will win going forward when inflation is higher than interest rates, which it's been for years. You may have already forgot the Canadian truckers' accounts getting frozen. So we have articles here of the Canadian truckers freezing their accounts, raising millions of dollars in Bitcoin after GoFundMe blocks their donations, and the World Economic Forum, Chrystia Freeland, the finance minister up there, is blocking their accounts, and Trudeau. I mean, insanity. And you may have forgot about Ukrainians fleeing and taking their wealth in their head. Taking their wealth in their head. Think about that. Can't take your house with you. Can't take your gold and silver with you in your head. But 12 or 24 words, your recovery phrase, all the wealth. You can take it anywhere. If you have your passcode, your passphrase, your recovery seed, your recovery phrase, whatever you want to call it, in your head. Or you have your wallet with you. Think about that. You may not have heard the stories of people in developing countries all over the world using Bitcoin to just escape their dying currencies or being locked out of their accounts. So again, articles, The Guardian of Bitcoin's adoption all over the world, helping people escape, just like we saw the dollar. And just imagine, the dollar is what everything's tied to. Just imagine other people's currencies and what theirs look like. I mean, it's literally through the floor. I think it just goes through the desk here. And if you're denominated in another currency. So it's helping people all over the world in that regard. You may have forgot that America froze the assets of a nuclear power in February 2022 during the outbreak of the Ukraine-Russia war. What makes you more special and me more special than a nuclear superpower? And that it won't happen to you, won't happen to us. We're just, it's just a domino effect. If they're willing to do it to a nuclear superpower, what are they willing to do to you? You may have forgot that Russia announced they would take Bitcoin and gold for energy and oil after that. Again, CNBC articles about this. You may have forgot the Fed pricing goods in Bitcoin. So they just did that recently. And they exposed themselves because the dollar obviously has been going up and down because that's what really goes up and down. Bitcoin is just there. And then you may have known or you may not have known the mining hash rate is more, the mining is more decentralized than it's ever been and a higher rate than ever before. You may not have known that you may not have known that means people can get in, the price going down, they can get in at a better price and dissipate ownership more. You may not have known as well that wallets owning 1.1 and 0.01 Bitcoin hit an all-time high in the previous weeks. You may have forgot that countries are now making it legal tender, adopting and putting on their balance sheet. Central African Republic, it was the second one to do it. El Salvador did it last fall, and more countries are talking about it. And then you get in these articles about them hilariously talking about, will it cause inflation? And these countries already have hyperinflations going on, and many great inflations going on, and they have a stable asset, a finite asset that holds its power over time and goes up in value over time. And you have the media people who have no idea what they're talking about could it cause inflation? People are worried, like as the articles go down. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You may have forgot that bills in Congress coming forward enshrining Bitcoin, and more politicians understanding this every day and the importance of monetary energy and energy money. So Cynthia Lummis and Kirsten Gillibrand introducing these articles here about that. You may have forgot that insurance companies and banks have bought in to hedge. They bought Bitcoin to hedge. Mass Mutual, $100 million of Bitcoin a year and a half ago. Many banks, New York Mellon, some huge banks buying into Bitcoin. You may have forgot or not read monetary historians like Mike Maloney, Max Kaiser, Michael Saylor, who've all talked about Bitcoin, and many other people, the Paul Tudor Jones, Stanley Druckenmiller, billionaires talking about, Bill Miller talking about the importance of Bitcoin in their portfolios and going forward, what it means to people. You have also in Fidelity, one of the biggest asset managers in the world, talking about it's riskier to not have Bitcoin than it is to actually own it. You have to get off zero. And you may have been listening to nobodies on Twitter and CNBC who are just employees and shills who read a teleprompter and not those professional investors that we just spoke of. You may have forgot that Bitcoin let the homeless and the poor have a portal into the financial system. If they go to a bank down the road and have no assets, they cannot get a bank account. But now they can. With Bitcoin, with a phone, an internet connection, they can have access and wealth. They can have more wealth than anyone else over time. They can trade their time for money and then buy Bitcoin, buy a value, store value is going to go up over time. And if you're into equal justice and not realize that Bitcoin allows you to bank no matter, like we just said, what race, creed, religion, sex, status, nationality. So this is a problem recently. People have been saying banking while black. More complaints of discrimination at U.S. Bank CEO promises change, and there's many articles about this. Bitcoin doesn't care who you are. Anyone, young, old, big, small, doesn't matter what color you are. That's why this is going to be such a disruptor. In conclusion, I think Bitcoin is the greatest hope for mankind going forward, other than God in the spiritual realm, obviously. That doesn't mean I have all my net worth in Bitcoin, though. I have a good chunk, but not all. We still have to prepare for the tail risk that the power goes out, solar flare, nuclear attacks, inside job from the elites. Not great percent that's going to happen, not a great chance, but we have to prepare for those tail risks, and we have to be prepared for that analog world as well. That's why I still have food, water, energy, guns, ammo, gold, silver, and I have them spread all over the world and all over the place and well armed so that no one comes after me. Peace through strength. We should all strive for that. Resiliency, independence. Block out the noise. Keep stacking those Satoshis. Keep stacking sats because the world is about to change. It is changing, and you don't want to be left behind. Stay strong. And again, this is not financial advice. If you appreciate this, please forward it to somebody. Please like and subscribe on our blog, on our YouTube channel. I really appreciate that and the time and effort we put into this. And if you don't like it, please dislike it. Please put comments on what we can change. Just want to keep growing, keep spreading the word of freedom, truth, liberty, and reality. That's purely it. I know that this is my calling to do this. I've known this for a long time, since I was a child, and I just honored to be doing it and hopefully providing value to you and those around you. Appreciate you. See you on the next one.